Hey everybody, Daniel from Spacedock here, and we've got a Star Wars trailer, so let's talk about it. I'm going to skip right past all this stuff in the first half where they just show footage from previous films, and go straight to 1 minute 18, where here we are on this desert planet. Can kind of see the edge of the Millennium Falcon on the right there, so I'm wondering if this might just be them after the remainder of the Resistance in its one little ship winds up wherever it does after the events of The Last Jedi. But I'm kind of getting some original Stargate movie vibes from this big, massive kind of gathering of kites and palisade towers and stuff around this desert area. Very interesting. Here's some of the recycled, reused footage from deleted scenes of The Force Awakens that they've used to recreate Leia in this film. Doesn't look particularly jarring or anything, it seems to be very seamless. And I'm curious to see how this is delivered in the film itself. Okay, good, we got all that stuff out of the way, now we're onto the spaceships. First up, we got a big Resistance squadron or flotilla or wing or whatever here. The T-70 X-Wing is in center stage, as well it should be, and much to the relief of many a Star Wars fan, I suspect, the B-Wing and the Y-Wing are back. There are also A-Wings here. I've been trying to figure out whether these are newer models or not. I can't tell if those A-Wings are RZ-1 or RZ-2. They look kind of RZ-1-ish. There's really no way to tell at this distance, but if they have ditched the Last Jedi A-Wing, then, you know, I'm happy about that, because that thing just looked weird. It was like looking at an A-Wing that a computer hadn't quite modeled all of the textures for yet, like when something is a little bit too far away in a video game and it's kind of lost some of its curves and hull angling and texture and it just looks simplified and blocky. I didn't like that model, so if it's gone, then there'll be no tears shed from Spacedock. The Y-Wings here look like BTLA-4s. There could well be a new Y-Wing design. Again, it's too far away to tell properly. I don't know if that's the much talked about B-Wing Mark II that has been bounced around. Apparently the cockpit of the B-Wing Mark II is the module that's used as the cockpit on the Resistance transport and then used to fly to Canto Bight in The Last Jedi. Now that cockpit module is big because we see Rose and Finn like actually walk around it in The Last Jedi. So it's obviously far larger than the standard cockpit of a B-Wing, which means the entire ship would be extrapolated to be much larger, which means the Mark II B-Wing would be like twice the size of a standard B-Wing. And I'm not sure that that's the case here. This looks like a normal B-Wing. I feel like the S-foils closed, horizontally oriented B-Wing has always been about 2 and a bit times the width of a Y-Wing, which is what it seems to be here. So I'm wondering if this is just an old-style standard B-Wing. There's also a CR-90 on display here. This could be the one that we saw at the start of Star Wars Resistance, that the Resistance evidently have. Or it could be, as Star Wars explained, and some others have suggested, the Tantive 4 being brought back in a giant starburst of nostalgia to blow out the franchise and finish with the same thing it started with. Can't argue with that. Leia could have had it locked away somewhere. Depending on what they're fighting here, it might be hopelessly out of date, but the CR-90 has always been pretty solid. This ship next to it is a new design. I don't know whether it's a freighter or a larger ship. It's kind of competing with the Corvette for size, so maybe not a freighter. It looks kind of large. And you can see a few things that look like gun hardpoints on there, and there's only so far that Star Wars can push the idea that all of these civilian-bought freighters that are absolutely covered in gun turrets like the Ghost are in fact civilian freight hauler designs. Eventually you've got to just admit that something is a gunship, and that's what this seems to be. Perhaps this is what Lando is using these days, or one of the other new characters, I don't know. Hold up, this is Future Dan. I came back to insert some stuff here because I was about to export this and then I found some other things that were relevant to this section. So, it seems that LEGO have released imagery of the Resistance A-Wing for the film and the Resistance Y-Wing. Now, it's hard to tell the detailing on stuff like this just entirely from LEGO. The Resistance one here, I'd say it is similar enough to the BTLA-4 that it could just be that ship, just with some bits taken off it and remodeled and such. The caps of the engine nacelles maybe look slightly different, and of course it's got a red paint job, but I'm not confident that I can determine what here is a different detail because it's LEGO and what is a different detail because it's a different ship. I think the most likely answer here is that this is just an ancient BTLA-4 Y-Wing with red stripes on it. Now, this ship was out of date in the Battle of Yavin, so by now this is a stupendously old and useless bomber, but I'd like to see how long it lasts in this battle. At least they're fighting relatively old ships by the looks of it. More interestingly is this Resistance A-Wing starfighter, which is sporting a fetching green paint job, has the fins angled in the same way as the old Star Wars Rebel-style A-Wings, which are my favourite version of the A-Wing, and most interestingly of all, it's carrying the emblem of the Republic's Open Circle fleet from the 3rd year of the Clone Wars, which, according to current canon and legends, predates the A-Wing. So I guess this means the A-Wing is older than it was ever meant to be before, or what? I have no idea. If this is trying to suggest that the A-Wing was used by the Republic in small numbers and then kept around and is now, for some reason, being used by the Resistance, like 60 years later or whatever, then that's interesting. I'm not sure what's going on there. The Open Circle fleet has a cool logo, so it's good to see it back. But really this just creates more questions. One thing that is nice though is we've got a little Lego Snap Wexley in there. So Snap Wexley is back and apparently flying an A-Wing. Good stuff. Next shot, big massive fleet of Star Destroyers, Imperial 1 class Star Destroyers. So very, very old Empire designs. Pre-Empire Strikes Back warships. This is interesting. I don't know what's going on here. When I first saw the detailing of that Imperial 1 in the first trailer for this, my assumption was that it was a New Republic ship that had been co-opted, as that seemed to be the most logical reason for why such an old ship would be in service at this point. But here we can see a vast armada of outdated Star Destroyers. Now, this could be one of the outcomes of Operation Cinder. Maybe the Empire sequestered away the entirety of their navy, and somehow nobody noticed, and Palpatine, in whatever shape or form he's now in, has been waiting to reintroduce it later in the game. Although that doesn't explain to me why these aren't Imperial 2 class. Maybe some of them are, and we just only get to see these ones in the trailer. Or maybe the people making Star Wars forgot that there were 2 kinds of Imperial class Star Destroyer and just recycled the model from something. Who knows? They are adopting a standard Star Wars unnecessarily tight formation that's going to cause all kinds of navigation problems and potential collisions. But oh well, it looks good, and it's eclipsed against the big nebula storm. Maybe this is where they've been hidden for all these years, if that is indeed the answer. Moving forwards, we got a cockpit. I don't think this is the Falcon's cockpit. It looks slightly different. It has that same kind of vibe, so maybe it's a CEC design, but it could be something to do with that smaller warship, or it could be something entirely new, something that Lando is in possession of, who knows. Either way, if it's not the Falcon's cockpit, it means we've got a new ship, and new ships are always good. Next up, C-3PO's got red eyes. Maybe he's doing a scan, maybe he's got night vision, maybe he's turned evil. Has anyone ever cared about C-3PO? I mean, really? Sure, he's perfectly serviceable as comic relief, but, you know, it doesn't matter. I very seriously doubt that the last film in the Star Wars series is going to have an important subplot about C-3PO having red eyes, so he's probably just, like, defragging his hard drive or something. Whatever, next picture. Orbital bombardment. Could be anything. Icy planet, some kind of beam. It's red, maybe it's the First Order, maybe it's the Onaga-class orbital bombardment ship that was released for Fantasy Flight as apparently a late war Galactic Empire design. Maybe the Empire have some of those lying around and they're going to break one out in this film. It looks like the same kind of projectiles that thing uses, so fair enough. At least it's not a giant spherical planet-killing weapon, unless it is. Next up, throwing lightsabers around. There's a training remote over there. She missed it. Don't know whether that was deliberate or not. This looks like Endor, probably is. We've seen Death Star wreckage, and I kind of like the idea of having a battle on Endor in the last film of the series, since that was always the plan back with the original trilogy, and it has that kind of layer of conclusion epicness built into it that will evoke those emotions upon viewing. No Ewoks though, please. Let's make sure that they were all pulverized by falling flaming debris like they were in those old EU comics. That was always fun. Next up, it's Kylo Ren with his TIE silencer that's not exactly the same as the TIE silencer in The Last Jedi. It's got a more traditional Sinar cockpit. We've talked about this before. Maybe it's been refitted, maybe it's a new model. Maybe the First Order uses this model as standard and Kylo just has a repainted one, though I find that kind of unlikely because the First Order seems to keep leaning towards unique ships for important people rather than just having a standard defined navy, which is a bit of a pain. But oh well, the TIE Silencer looked cool. I've got to say, actually, I think I kind of preferred the Last Jedi cockpit for this. It was a bit more unique with the sort of lozenge shape. But oh well, there seems to be a lot of elements in this that are trying to evoke imagery of the original trilogy and the Galactic Civil War, so the return of that standard cockpit is fair enough. Next up, lightsaber fight on the wreckage of the Death Star. You can tell it's the Death Star because there's a turbo laser tower in the background. Not really much to say about this, other than, of course, the Death Star was completely wiped out in the end of Return of the Jedi, so I guess this is some retcon debris. Next up, it's the big shot of the reveal of, presumably, a dream, Evil Rey. I very much doubt this is actually going to happen in the real world in the film. There just isn't really enough time left in a 2-hour movie to have Rey go to the dark side and then come back. And you know she would have to come back. That's too big a thing to tell in that shorter time, and it would just seem jarring and weird. It'll be some kind of confrontation with the Emperor, but for the purposes of a trailer, it's a very cool shot. Rey has a foldy lightsaber thing. Initially, I thought this was really daft, but I guess it's the same one that the Temple Guard used in Clone Wars and Rebels. It's just that for some reason she's ignited it while it's in its, like, closed position. The only reason I can think that it folds up like that is to just make it easier to carry, though Darth Maul never had any problems carrying his normal-sized double-bladed lightsaber around, but I can see no advantage to igniting both blades when it's collapsed. It's just sort of double stabbiness, unless you want to use them as chopsticks or a tuning fork or something. But either way, she does the big butterfly knife unfoldy thing, and she's got a double-bladed lightsaber. It's about time. I mean, she was fighting with a stick for like the first half of The Force Awakens, and it seemed very obvious that she should get a double-bladed lightsaber. So even if this is only a vision, I'm glad that was kind of lived up to eventually. More Palpatine narration, great stuff. Ian McDiarmid can do no wrong. No matter what this film is like, it will be worth the price of admission because it contains the voice of Ian McDiarmid. Let me know in the comments below what you think of those new ships. Do you reckon they are new designs or returns to old versions? Do you think the entire theme of this is a sort of recreation of parts of the Galactic galactic civil war, the Resistance is using old Rebel ships, the Empire is using old Imperial ships. I'm just glad we're getting a space battle, and I'm very curious to see how this all pans out in December. Thank you for watching. This is Daniel from Spacedock, signing off. Thank you for watching Spacedock. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please do check out the links on the screen right now or in the description below for our Patreon and channel membership services. Anything you can pledge goes towards improving our team and our equipment and allowing us to put together bigger and more exciting video projects for you guys on the channel.